Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are going to be doing block number 2, the chocolate lily in the Northern Flora block. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this one off to the side. I've got all my stuff ready to go. I'm flipping open to page. My book is so trashed. I've been using it for years and the cover's fallen off. Ooh, but it's okay. It holds everything just fine. So we're open to page 12 and 13. I've again made my copy of my layout guide, so I don't have that stuff on the back shining through on my light table. So I've got my copy. I've got my 4 cathedral window applique pieces all cut out and ready to go. And if you need a reminder on how to do these, watch the beginning of block 1, and it goes through the tutorial on how to cut these out and your steam a seam process and all of that. I've got my 10-inch background square, 10.5-inch, sorry, background square cut and ready to go. And I've got all my appliques labeled. So again, label everything from this page. Take a look at it. They're all in the same order. Write everything down. If it says B1, make sure you write B1. Don't just write B. And we're ready to start. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my light table. Oh yeah, and always have your thread scissors ready. Turn on my light table, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to arrange my square background into these little guides here on point, ready to go. Okay, first thing, step A is the stem. Where's the stem? Let's take a look. It's right here in this light green. Whoop, right here. So popping this out gently. If you have any threads that hold or stick, grab those thread scissors. Once you've popped it out, if you have any threads sticking out, which I have two little threads sticking out. And then we're going to go ahead and arrange this stem. So in this case, what are we going to do with the stem? Well, the stem is going to get covered. Move this up a little bit. The stem is going to get covered by these cathedral window appliques, right? So I'm actually going to start, and I know on the other ones I said, oh, start in the middle. Well, this one's just a straight stem. We just want to make sure it gets underneath this flower, right? So I'm going to start it kind of down a little ways so that I know that cathedral window is going to cover it. And speaking of the cathedral windows, step B is to put all the cathedral windows down. So we're going to cover up that stem at this point, and we're putting them all down. Okay, so centering. I kind of fold that edge over. That paper popped off. Centering it, and yay, we have covered our stem. We're good to go. Fold that over. Pop that paper off. This other one, just going to sort of center her. And remember that those little tips will hang over a little bit, and that's what you want actually, and that is the way it, it's supposed to be, so you're good to go. And the last piece. And again, when you put them all down at once, when it says do all cathedral windows, there isn't a right way or a wrong way. It's not like do these two, then these two, or do this one and do it in clockwise or counterclockwise. Just lay them out however you want. I tend to go like in a clockwise order. Okay. Step C, leaves A through I. And it says again, leaves should be arranged in numerical order. So when you have a leaf that says A1, you need to make sure that you look for A2 before moving on to B. So we have an A1 right here. Oh, what does that mean? That means there is an A2. And I have a thread. This light green, I had the light green and the forget-me-not one too. And it was one that wanted to have these little threads. I don't know. Sometimes it's like one bolt or something. So A, where's A? It's down here. A, B, C, D, E, F are all in this little group down here. So on this one, you'll notice that we have an A1 that goes across the top. I'm just going to put this down, lay that down, and we have an A2 right here. And I'm going to lay that down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down and follow the bottom of that leaf. It's harder to see through the center of your fabric where that line is. So whenever I have like a leaf that has those two parts like that, I laid the top one following the top line. I laid the bottom one following the bottom line, and I just let them meet in the middle where they meet. And as long as there's no, light or gap between them, I think, you're good to go. B1. Oop, I have a little thread. Hang on, we'll clip that. B2. And again, here, B2, I can see where the line is, and I look at my layout guide here, and I can see that B2 starts way over here. And I'm just going to make sure it follows the line and meets up with that light green on either side. So it's just kind of showing a curve of a leaf there, right? C1, where is, oh, not that one. We're starting with the dark on C1. And so looking at my guide here, I can see that 1 is this skinny piece that sticks way out. So I'm going to go ahead and get that peeled off. I'm going to start where the tip is, way out there. Oop, wait a minute. It's not that far out there. Let me take a look here. Okay, so it's just right here. And it goes in. And then C2. Find it. It's in this light green. Oops. Out of the way. And place that on top, and then I'm following that top line again, and I'm just making sure that it meets up with this dark green where the point kind of lays on top of the green, because you don't want that sticking up above it, because it's meant to be one leaf, right? So the light and the dark are showing because of the curvature of those leaves, and so you want them to line up and meet up with each other, the little points. So D1, following the top line, D2, and see D2, this one here. So now again, following my bottom line and making sure that they meet up at their point there. E1, and E1, I'm going to hold this down and I'm going to flip this up and take a look. And I can see that the point is right about there. And if I just kind of keep my eye in that spot, it helps me to kind of see exactly where I want to put that down, even through that fabric, because it is kind of hard to see through the fabric at times. And if you flip it up and look, and then I just kind of like keep my eye, oops, that's not, go about right there, following that bottom line with E2. But if I keep my eye kind of where that point is, I can sort of see it through the fabric, at least long enough to go, okay, that's where I start. And F, which kind of covers up all those little leaves going in the middle. Okay, so we are done with this group, and now we're going to move up to the leaves up on the top group. So E, F, G. G, you'll notice, just says G. So that means there is no G2. It's just G. If it only says the one letter or the one number without an alphabetical number or a letter, oh my gosh, if it's an alphabetical one and it's A, or in this case G, and it just says G and no number following it, that's the only applique. If you come to something that's numbered or numerically numbered, so it's 1, 2, 3, and it just says 1 and not 1A, that means there's just the one thing. G, I have a thread on my paper, get rid of that. H1. Following the bottom of that, H2. We're going to follow the top and make sure that they line up with each other. I1. I2, and that's actually it for that dark green color. We're already done with that one. And again, just following and making sure that we kind of meet up with that one. Okay, so we have finished C. We're already on to step D. Like, boy, after the forget-me-not, this one is like easy. Well, maybe not. Oops, I turned my light table off. Maybe not easy, but not as difficult. Okay, so we're going to do flowers 1 through 3, and we're starting with flower 1 and do everything for 1 first. So 1A is this little stem piece that goes right here. 1B, where's 1B? Here we go. Geez, I keep hitting my light table. 1B, this kind of rusty brown color here. Purpley brown, I guess it's more purpley than rust. And that is this piece. So here I'm gonna match up this little V area right here because it's harder to see what goes on in the cathedral window applique area, but just make sure that's lined up. So now we want to find 1C, which is this little green piece here, the little stamen in the middle. And it's kind of hard to see this too. So I'm going to hold my thing, hold my background, look, and I can see that it starts right above that little V, and I'm just going to place it there. If I need to move it, I can. So what were we on? 1C, now we need D. Here's 1D. Pop that out. Oh, and I have a little part that's holding really tight there. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip it. And got that out. This is actually the last bit for flower 1. Okay, so now 1D. So I can see the tip right there. And this one, it covers that little green part and it meets up with kind of the top over here. But you'll notice it sort of breaks up piece B into this area of this kind of purpley brown and this back area of purpley brown. So it doesn't line up there. It's kind of creating that shadow of those other leaves that are on there. So, okay, so we're done with flower 1. So let's move on to flower 2. Flower 2, where's 2A? Here we go. We're back in that purpley color. What the heck is this color called? Rum raisin. I call it dark brown petals. The color is called rum raisin, the Hoffman color. Okay, 2A, where is 2B? Oh, 2B. Here's this light green again. Only have one piece left in there now. I remember when I was, I had never seen a chocolate lily in the wild. And when I was going to design this one, let me see. So 2CDE, they're these little yellow pieces that you're going to, have flashbacks of the forget-me-not when you do these ones. But there's not so many. Don't worry. You can get through it. You can do it. You did the forget-me-not. You can do anything. So C, I can't really see where it is actually. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of place them. By looking at my layout guide over here, I'm just going to kind of place them around that light green and not worry about them being so exactly where they're supposed to be underneath. Because again, as I mentioned before in the forget-me-not, these are flowers. This is part of nature. Nature is very forgiving and nature is very unique. So your flower doesn't have to look exactly like my flower. Your little stamen pieces and your little pollen stuff doesn't have to be exactly where mine is. It just needs to be in the middle, right? That's where they go. They're in the middle. And F. Flower 2 done. We're on flower 3. We're already almost finished. Okay, so 3A is this brown. And it is actually the very kind of background. So you're going to see that you just line it up with the bottom there. 3B is the last of this purpley color. And it's through the center. And it's hard for me to see again. And so I'm just going to kind of line it up in the middle there because I can see that that's where it is looking at my layout guide. You can always lift up and kind of take a look. And again, with this middle stuff, I'm looking more at this than I am trying to look through all these layers of fabric on my light table. Because when you get that many and it's that dark, it really does become more difficult to see through it and to try to be like, oh my gosh, where does it go? Where does it go? Oh, don't worry about it so much. Look at your layout guide, approximate. It's approximately right there. Now, all these little yellow pieces, just arrange them just generally where they're supposed to go. And I'll tell you something else. Sometimes I've lost these little tiny pieces. Like I've been putting something together, like one of these flowers or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I lost one of my little yellow pieces. You could cut another one out from, the excess, or you could just say, oh, mine only has 4 yellow pieces, not 5. And I can tell you, again, nobody's going to notice that. So don't feel like, you have to be so perfect. I made this little seal pup design, which I just loved. I did it because my daughter really loves little seals, and it just made me think of her. And it has all these little dots where his whiskers are. And I cut them all out. And then I've found that if you don't place them exactly where they go, you end up, I was kind of just approximating where they went to. And I ended up where I was running out of room and I had extra dots. And I was like, well, my seal pup isn't going to have as many dots. So you never would notice. So this is the last piece. And I do want to mention something about 3I. In your book, as I'm doing these tutorials, sometimes I find mistakes. In your book, I didn't label 3I. I wrote it in on my book just so I would remember, and I put a little circle around it. So this last piece right here at the top of flower 3 is 3I. Now, because I didn't realize that I had not labeled that, when I did this as a class a few years ago, I actually was helping somebody and we didn't put 3I on it. And I didn't even notice. And then somebody else later said, hey, where does 3I go? And I was like, oh, what? And then, so I had to dig in the trash to find the ladies that I was helping to find hers because we'd thrown it away. And we didn't even notice that it was missing. But just so you know, as you get going, this piece, 3I, goes up at the top here. Okay, how does it go? It goes like here. And, oh my goodness, follows the top of that, goes up to the top of that, follows the bottom of that. There we go. Oh, and my leaves are sticking up a little bit. So you know what? Because my leaves are kind of floating, because my little 3 is a little low, I'm actually going to do this. Watch this. This brown piece almost covers the whole thing underneath, right? So I'm going to lift that whole flower up. Look at that. There's my flower. I can move it around. And just because I don't want my leaves floating, I'm just going to move it up slightly so it covers the base of those leaves. So now my flower's a little high. Do you notice that? No. Is anybody going to notice that? No. Watch this. Whoop. Do you notice that my leaf is high? You don't, because who's going to notice something like that? We're done. This one was fast. It hasn't even been 20 minutes. I can't believe that. Okay, so now everything is arranged. We're done with block 2. So what do we do now? We want to fuse it. So as I went through in the last video, and I'll just kind of briefly go through a little bit again, for fusing this block, you're going to take your iron, grab my little ironing board. First thing you're going to do with your iron is you're going to just gently press over the whole thing. You're just pressing. Do not move your iron across. Do not iron, or you could risk grabbing one of these little appliques and pulling it along with your iron and getting a whole big old mess underneath your iron. Okay, so we're just pressing. We're gently getting it, warming up that glue, getting it to stick in place. And now we're going to do either our steaming or our spray bottle. So if you're going to steam, I'm going to count out with my fingers as I steam. We're going to do it for about 5 or 6 seconds. So I'm going to steam it. I do the noises. And set it straight down on that. So I was holding the iron about within an inch of the top, and then I set it straight down, and I repeat that whole process over the whole thing. I flip it over. I do it from the back, right? Okay, if we're going to use our spray bottle, we're going to spritz a little area, get it nice and wet, and then we're just going to set our iron straight down and leave it for about 10 seconds. Now, again, if your iron is too hot, you're going to notice little bitty dots from the glue webbing showing through. So as you finish up, even on that first one if you want to, flip it over onto the back and take a look at where you just steamed. If you're seeing little dots, your iron's too hot. Lower your temperature and then finish it up. If you're not seeing those little dots after your 10 seconds of fusing, you're good to go. And you can just go ahead and do the whole thing. So again, we're going to spray the next area, the next footprint, I like to say. Set that iron down on there and just leave it for about 10 seconds. Let it really absorb all that steam. Let it melt that glue in and stick it and fuse it really well to your background, and repeat for the whole thing. And flip her over, steam it from the back, or spritz it from the back, and do the whole thing, and then you're done. So I'll do the rest of that later, but we're finished with block number 2, and good job. And next, block 3, which is black currant, and that one too is so fast. So the forget-me-not took a little while. It's one of the most difficult. And now that you're working on these other blocks, you'll see a lot of them are pretty simple. And as you get going, hopefully you'll get confidence to where you might even feel like you don't need the tutorials, but they're always kind of fun to watch. And I had some folks in class that over the next few months, as they got better and better with it, they started to try to see if they could beat me to finishing something, because I am a little fast. So as you're going along, if you need to, you can always pause, so that you can do the step I'm doing, pause me, finish your step, move on, watch for a few, pause me again, and that's fine. But it became kind of like a game, like if they could finish before I finish, because I was doing also some online tutorials with that class. And so I would get them going, and then I would do the tutorial, and it was like, come up and watch if you want. But some of the ladies would sit back and they'd be like, no, we're going to try to beat her. So eventually, hopefully you'll be going so fast that you'll be like, either I don't even need the tutorials, or I'm going to watch them, but I'm going to see if I can beat Dana. So anyhow, Chocolate Lily is finished, and I'll see you again soon for block number 3.